It's Thursday, May 9th, Friday, May 10th. If you're on the East Coast, across the pond, or down under. And this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. Hope you had a great day and night. I am your host, Dave Scott, broadcasting to you live from the Great White North on top of the mountains of central British Columbia, right here at SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show, including Deep Talk Radio and Revolution Radio. If you want to take a listen to our archives, guess what? We have them free for you at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, currently being rebuilt because of the bigger and better demands that you have put on us, so please stay tuned for that. Tonight's show is brought to you by the YouTube channel in Suho. Sebastian Martin brings high-quality messages to the masses. Make sure you check out his YouTube channel today. Every couple of months, we get to talk monsters with one of the best cryptid authors out there, Varla Ventura. From Shapeshifters to Bigfoot in the forest and Mermaids in the seas, Varla's vast array of knowledge writing about legends and lore have her repopularizing the folklore that surrounds us. Her books, which can be found on Amazon, are amazing reads, and the passion she has in her details keep the reader excited about turning on to the next page. Her website is varlaventura.net. Then at the bottom of hour number 3, I will bring you the SOR Newswire, brought to you by Paranoia Magazine. Varla Ventura, it's been a couple of months, but we got you back, and I'm very excited to have you here. Thank you so much for being on Spaced Out Radio again.
Well, good evening, and thank you for having me back. Always a pleasure.
Always. You got the open invite. Very few have that key to SOR headquarters, but you're one of them.
I feel like I'm in the club now. I feel like I belong.
Well, it's because you have good hair. That's why.
It's the hair. Yeah. They say that about
totally
you, too.
The hair.
I know.
No, never me. Never me. You know, I have to tell you something. I got to tell our audience something. I'm a little disappointed. It hit about 80 degrees here. All right. It was nice and warm, beautiful spring day. And I killed my first mosquito today. Mosquito I saw, I killed it. And I'm like, no. Way too soon for mosquito season. And I am just not looking forward to that because they travel in droves. Last year, I literally would walk to my window debating, do I take my dogs outside or not? And I would look out the window on the door, and it would be infested with mosquitoes saying, come here, big boy. Come here. We like you. We like your O positive. We hear your O positive. Come here. Just give us a little taste. And today I got the one. I killed it, and I felt good about it.
They're watching you probably right now, actually.
Oh, I
know. Waiting for their opportunity.
I know. But the good news was my hummingbirds are back. Had a green one and a red one.
It was warm, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's
absolutely
good news.
Absolutely. So I was happy about the hummingbirds. Because I like them.
Yeah, hummingbirds are awesome. They're so amusing.
What have you been up to?
Well, it's cold here, actually. I'm kind of experiencing the opposite of what you're experiencing. Up north, we got several inches of snow. And when I woke up this morning, there was a little mix of snow in with the, I'm in the St. Paul area in Minnesota now, and there was a mix of little bit of snow in there with the rain and the sprinkles. And I'm looking at the calendar, and I'm looking outside, and I'm looking at the calendar, and I'm thinking, this seems off. This isn't, it's not really abnormal for Minnesota, but it's abnormal to me to experience it. So I have been writing a lot, working on another book, trying to just kind of peek out the window and wait for all those things to sprout and just kind of hanging on. I went to a great festival here in the Twin Cities called the Festival of Nations. And the theme for the different cultural areas was celebrations and like festivals and holidays. Right up my alley because I love learning about different cultures and different traditions. And of course, because we are where we are, and it's this time of year when everybody is just holding out for summer, there were all of these representations of ways to chase away the winter. And I learned about some really interesting traditions I had never heard of before that were just amazing and completely right up my alley. So, yeah, I thought maybe I should try a couple of them. They all seem to involve strange masks and burning effigies. So I'm not sure how well that would go over in my neighborhood. You know, I do have a fire pit in my front yard. So what would people do if I was burning an effigy? I'm sure if I told them that I was banishing winter, they would join me because we're all kind of tired of it. So.
Very interesting. Very interesting. And you know what? I don't feel pity for you after the winter we had up here.
No, you
so
understand.
If it's snowing, no, I understand. But the beautiful part about it up here right now is we are totally engulfed in a lot of nights in a row where the moon it has already passed. We got a lot of moonless nights, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm
It's
very
been
happy
extra
about it.
dark,
It's good to catch
huh?
those. Oh, yeah. And the stars, because we don't have a lot of light pollution up here, the stars are just that much brighter. You usually get a
Love
great
it.
view of the Milky Way. And it's a good way to go. Like after the show, I'll at like midnight tonight Pacific. I'll head outside, sit on my patio for 20, 30 minutes, just staring up at the stars, wondering if
Oh,
I get to see anything strange or odd. But it's kind of
right?
cool. It's very
Just
cool.
waiting.
Very cool. What are you writing on these days? What's your next book?
So this is the thing that you have to get me drunk to get me to tell you. Remember?
Oh,
I can't
yes.
remember if I told you or not.
Well,
I don't think so.
well, then a
Um,
little bit of Fireball can't cure, but yeah, that's
that's
just the way it goes.
I don't do cinnamon in my whiskey, sir.
I'm
Not
never
how it
afraid
goes.
to try.
Well, I'm working on a book about pirates, is what I'm working on. So it didn't take much to get that out of me. You know, it's interesting because of all of the books that I've written, the best selling one is the Mermaid book by far, by like it's outsold all of the others by thousands and thousands of copies. Which is interesting to me because I love that book, but it's not the one that I would have thought would have sold the best, but it has, and so I'm hoping that on that premise, the a book about pirates will be a lovely companion to a book about mermaids, and it will do just as well. But I have just by kind of random happenstance and through writing and getting some travel writing sort of invitations and trips and things, I have been spending an odd amount of time in the Caribbean. Now, I had never been anywhere near the Caribbean my entire life. I mean, I grew up in California, so it's not a real destination. You know, we tend to go toward Hawaii or something like that if we're going for or Mexico if we're trying to, do the tropical thing. But I've been given a number of invites to a few different islands here and there as part of other writing projects. And I just sort of keep stumbling, of course, by interest. I just keep stumbling into pirate lore, learning something I didn't know every time I go. And so, especially about female pirates, which I think are the sort of underserved pirates. You know, there were some pretty magnificent women who commanded ships and, garnered quite a bit of treasure and accolades in their pirateering lifetime. So I've just been sort of using that as an excuse. Oh, well, sorry, I've got to head off to, got to go to the Turks. See you later. So that's kind of but also there's a lot of pirate history in the United States and of course, in the British Isles and other parts of the world, there's a lot of pirate history. So I'm working on putting that together. I've been working on the book. I haven't actually pitched it to the publisher yet because I've been working on the book part of it. So I don't normally do that. Normally what I do is come up with an idea and try and con someone into publishing it, and then I write it. But this time it's sort of a little bit different, and I'm just going with it. And at some point I'll get that hopefully no one's listening tonight. I swear I'm going to get it done. But it's interesting because I prefer to write under deadline. Turns out I'm a lot more motivated if somebody is sort of making me, feel bad for not doing something. It takes a lot to get me there. So it's kind of been interesting because this book is forming in a different way than some of the other ones. And I don't know if that's good or bad. I mean, in the end, I'll probably get a deadline and it'll be midnight the night before and I'll be working on it. But that's sort of what I'm working on now, along with a few other sort of side projects. Like I said, I'm doing some travel writing and things like that.
Hey, I want to get back to the fact that you're still experiencing a little bit of winter where you are in the central U.S., the northern part there, because it is still hockey season technically. So why wouldn't it snow?
Yeah,
a lot of people during those types of times, they get into spells, some sort of winter rituals where they're trying to control the weather to make it go away. There's a lot of legends around that. What have you been able to find out about that?
Well, one of the most interesting things that I've come upon of late is I don't know how I've lived all these years and not known about this, to be frank. It's called the Drowning of Marsanna. And it's a Slavic tradition in Poland specifically. Now, there are counterparts in other parts of the Slavic world and Slavic tradition. Sometimes you'll hear, instead of Marsanna, you might hear Morena or Marzana or some sort of variation. But this particular one is the Drowning of Marsanna. And in a nutshell, it is a ritual to sort of like banish away winter. Winter is always represented as sort of like either a dead husk of something or a witch of winter. And these rituals, there are counterparts to these rituals around the world, and they tend to take place around the spring equinox, but sometimes a bit later. Sometimes they'll be closer to Beltane, which is, of course, the beginning of May. So it depends sort of geographically, and probably year to year it would depend on when the ritual would take place. But the Drowning of Marsanna still takes place in Poland today in certain small villages. There's a variation of it that's still practiced, and it's a pagan tradition. And what happens is essentially they build an effigy. It's called the Marsanna doll. And this effigy is said to represent winter. It's made of straw, usually clothing. At this festival that I went to, they had one built there, so you could see, and it reminded me a little bit of a scarecrow, but like not quite as carefully decorated, not quite as representative of an actual person, because it wasn't trying to scare the crows away. It's trying to banish winter. So it's just sort of this like giant corn husk dolly, if you can imagine that. A little bit creepy, but creepy in a good way, I think. But what's great about it is basically it's in order to banish winter and ensure that spring will come and the crops will flourish, you burn this witch and then you drown it in the river. So basically you set this thing on fire and then you chuck it into the river. And the school children take place in this ritual, and they all sing little spring ritual songs while this thing's being burned and chucked into the river. And the idea, of course, is that you are sort of getting rid of the cold harshness of winter, the death and the deadness of winter, and you're bringing on the renewal and life of spring. And what I find especially interesting there are, as I said, variations of this around the world where there's sort of a burning ritual. Now, we know that ash and the kind of, burnt wood and bark and things like that actually can be very good for the soil and very enriching, and can be a great way to ensure that the soil is ready for the next crop. So there's definitely some actual farming rituals that we still use today that I think have kind of there's a sensical origin in this, along with the superstitious pagan belief. There's also a kind of a more practical element to it, I think. So, and I, when I read about this, I did a little more research and found that there are examples of this all over the world, but there was a very similar one in the Tyrolean region of Austria, sort of that northern Italy and Austrian Alps region, where they would build essentially a straw dolly that they call the witch, and they burn it at a stake, and everybody brings little things and offerings around, and then they burn this. They don't necessarily chuck that one in the river or the lake, but they sort of burn burn what they call the winter witch. And in other places, they'll have something similar, some kind of culmination in a fire or a bonfire, but there will be these crazy masks of just sort of deranged, slightly demonic looking animals and people and humanoid figurines. And there was one at this festival, they had a whole display of these sort of characters that got in this parade. And it was in Lithuania, and the parade was the same thing. It was to banish winter. And I was just laughing to myself because, there's this theme going on of like banishing winter. But these distorted, elongated sort of humanoid faces and very strange sort of masks with misshapen ears and things that would, and the woman at the booth said it has to be scary. It has to be frightening. It has to frighten winter away. It can't just be something pleasant. It has to be frightening. And these things they were definitely frightening. And, I saw a lot of the children were sort of circumventing that area. It was like a big gap. Not a lot. There was adults visiting the booth, but not too many kids getting up close to those creepy masks. And sort of, they were like giant marionette kind of figurines.
That sounds eerie. It almost sounds like a horror
creepy.
novel.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a good idea. Trying to, and we have, if you think of probably like one of the most popular sort of horror pagan movies of all time is The Wickerman. And I think you probably know this movie, the burning effigy, and the guy kind of gets tricked into, I won't give away the ending, but somebody dies. But the idea behind that is now in that case, it's sort of conflating a rumor based ritual that there's not that the Wicker Man didn't exist and that there wasn't an effigy burned, but there's some exaggeration there. And apparently a lot of the first quote unquote firsthand accounts of this effigy burning of the Wicker Man back in the day came from Julius Caesar, and he was sort of aghast at this thing that was set on fire and believed that they were making human sacrifices inside that Wicker Man. Archaeologists have never been able to prove that actually took place, but not that the Wicker ritual took place, but that human sacrifice took place within that. But you know how it is. You see something you don't recognize and you just assume the worst. And you probably see these contorted figurines dancing around, or, you kind of, it reminds me a lot of some of the stories that I've read about werewolves and werewolf rituals, where, the Reverend came to town to record the sins and deeds of the villagers, and stumbled upon some berserkers in the woods getting ready for a fight, and completely saw it in a different way, using that sort of anglicized Christian perspective. So always take those things with a grain of salt. But what I loved the most is I actually took a picture of the sign of the drowning of Marsanna, because it said, Marsanna is the Polish name for a Slavic goddess associated with death, winter, and nature. Even though pagan religion was theoretically eradicated from Poland in the early 11th century, Marsanna is still alive today thanks to this popular spring celebration. So I love the way they kind of framed that. It was like, so supposedly you purged all the pagans, but we're still doing this pagan ritual. And it also overlaps with Lent. Now it's called Lent and Ash Wednesday. Again, right. There's this Catholic holiday that sort of overlaps this pagan tradition and absorbs certain elements of it in a means to kind of integrate itself into the culture. So it's totally fascinating, and definitely an aspect of just ritual and folklore that I would like to explore more specifically, that the Winter Witch, the burning of the Winter Witch.
Varla Ventura is with us tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We got about a minute left before we need to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Do you think any of these rituals actually work?
Well, I'm willing to give it a try. I'll tell you, I talked to many a person there that said, hey, we'll try anything at this point. So I think that, I think they worked for a variety of reasons. Timing, community building, the understanding, and the just that mental change that we are letting go of winter and we're moving forward can bring a society forward into that next season by participating in a community ritual. So in many ways, yes, I do think that they worked.
Very interesting.
But I do not advocate burning witches.
No, it's not a good thing.
State. That is not a good thing.
Not a good thing. You may go to jail for murder for that, just so you know, people out there.
You should. Yeah.
Absolutely. Varla Ventura is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio, one of the best cryptid authors out there. Make sure you go to Amazon, get her books. You will not be disappointed. Her website, varlaventura.net. Coming up after the break, we're going to get into pixies, fairies. What else is flying in the spring? Sunshine and Eve? We'll find out from Varla right after this.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio. Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want, when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar-Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Coming up this September 21st and 22nd, all UFO eyes will be focused on Toronto for the 4th Annual Alien Cosmic Expo. Come listen to some of the biggest names and experiencers in ufology. Travis Walton, Paul Hellyer, Richard Dolan, Paula Harris, Grant Cameron, Randy Kramer, and Spaced Out Radio's own Dave Scott. Tickets are on sale now at aliencosmicexpo.com.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Did you know Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi there, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm here to take you on a paranormal journey each Saturday and Sunday night. Why change the station when you have it all right here? Together, we'll hang out and share some strange and scary stories. And don't forget, we have Psychic Sundays as well, so come tune in Spaced Out Weekend. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com, where we own the night.
We're bringing scientific thought to the paranormal. Hi there, this is Spaced Out Radio scientist Chris Cogswell. Join me, Chris Zuger, and Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month, where we break down the who from the woo when it comes to everything paranormal. We'll investigate and try to bring sensible answers to those straight and sometimes outlandish questions people have. Hey, not everything has an answer, but we'll do our best. Listen in to Reality Paranormal only on Spaced Out Radio.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Welcome back to the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio. Tonight, I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. What a pleasure to have all of you here. Remember, if you've missed part of this show or others, you can always check out our YouTube channel for our archive, Spaced Out Radio. All you got to do, for me, is hit that subscribe button. The shows, they are completely free for you. And our website, spacedoutradio.com, currently under construction. We're building it bigger and better because of your demand, so stay tuned for that within the next couple of weeks. Every couple months, we are blessed to have author Varla Ventura on with us as we continue down the cryptid world that she lives. Varla, welcome back to the show.
Why, thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Always a pleasure to have you here as well. Varla, a lot of times we get into the big cryptids, Dogman, Bigfoot, sea monsters, whatever it may be. But literally there are cryptids, allegedly, all over the forests around North America and the world, from fairies to pookas to little garden gnomes that are actually running around.
We know how you feel about garden gnomes.
No, I am one with the gnomes now. I am over it. I am one with the gnomes. One with the gnomes. But a lot of people look at these as whether they're First Nation legend or maybe they're just little stories from a time from long ago. But are they real in a 2019 form?
Well, yes. I think I always held the belief, and I think this is owed to my childhood of being exposed to a lot of nature and a lot of fairy lore at a young age, along with a few other kind of occult leanings. But I think that it's a sort of a situation where they reveal themselves to people who are able to see them, able to process seeing them, or need to see them for some kind of reason. They're not something that they're going to be visible every day. I think that they exist. They probably go into hiding a lot. But I think it's sort of the fairy kingdom has a different relationship with time. And you see this with a lot of First Nations or Native American cultures. You see the discussion of time being in a very different fashion than what we think of in the modern sort of Western world of, well, we get up at 7 and we go to bed at 10:30, and it's a linear, like we're projecting towards something. Whereas in a lot of cultures and a lot of indigenous cultures, time is viewed in more of a circular fashion and more of an overlapping. And I believe that the fairy realm is sort of, there's almost not quite the right word for it. It's not a parallel universe, but it's a coexisting plane. But their relationship to time is completely different than ours. So if you were trying to illustrate it and you're standing in front of a tree, a fairy could be running around upside down through the tree, around the tree, into the ground, all around, all in the air, in a span of time that you might, turn to scratch your nose. All of these things could be happening. So this is why you have these stories of people falling asleep in a fairy mound and waking up and having this kind of, just joining this party, and it just seeming like no time has passed, and they kind of come stumbling out of the woods and years have gone by or they've been missing. Not unlike stories that you hear of people who have been abducted by aliens or alien abduction stories where there's this loss of time. So I think that we have a relationship with time that probably needs to be really evaluated in terms of our own mental health as sort of, humankind in 2019. Because I think that those times that are where we do literally lose track of time, those are often the times when these kind of worlds can overlap. And the artist sees this or experiences this when they're in the throes of creation. The writer experiences it as an artist when they are, just completely lost in a story and they lose track of time. The musician experiences this when they go to another plane while they're jamming or they're singing. There are a lot of ways that there are rituals that we can sort of tap into this timelessness that is actually an extension of our understanding of time itself. It sounds like I'm, traveling backwards through the looking glass when I am talking about this, but it really has a lot to do with our ability to sense other things beyond our kind of human world. So I think, yes, the long-winded answer is that, yes, I absolutely think they are as real today as they once were. They may not be as believed in, and they certainly are not as respected, but I still believe that they're as real as they ever were.
What are they?
They're just their own thing. The fairy realm encompasses a lot of creatures. A lot of things we think of as cryptids, and there's a lot of crossover with other I just kind of consider them all magical creatures, for lack of a better way to describe them. Mermaids fall into the fairy realm. Banshees fall into the fairy realm, but they also cross over kind of into that ghostly realm. And I don't really know what they are specifically. I think that it could be interpreted in a lot of ways. They could just be other creatures that live here and have their own thing going on, and we're interrupting them. They could also be, representations of things that we need to learn, just as the fairy tale is often used to teach a lesson. A sighting or an experience, whether it's paranormal or otherwise, often is a sign that there's something that we need to pay attention to in our own lives, or it can be a wake-up call, or it can be a message, a beautiful message. So I think that's a tricky question. I actually just personally think they're just creatures like everyone else, or not like everyone else, but just as we might, we have the plant kingdom, we have the kingdom of the fungi, we have the animal kingdom, we have the fairy kingdom. I think they're all kind of interspersed.
Are they the tricksters that many have made them out to believe?
There are trickster fairies. There are specific trickster fairies, and you see variations of the trickster fairy or a trickster god or goddess in many different cultures. But the trickster fairies especially are the Pookas. The Pookas they have the ability to shapeshift. Basically, the trickster loves to bring you to the brink of sanity or insanity, but not quite send you off the cliff. And I believe that, especially in the instance of the Irish Pooka, which often appears on roads late at night, especially probably after the pub is closed. And I say this as a joke, but it's really actually not a joke. Traditionally, in a lot of the stories, the Pooka preys on drunks. Like, it's always the town drunk. You can even see this in the really well-known movie Harvey with Jimmy Stewart from the 1930s. He is Harvey himself is a giant white rabbit that only Jimmy Stewart's character, Elwood P. Dowd, he can see this giant Pooka, but he's also the town drunk and everybody laughs at him. So they tend to prey on people who, and I say prey, that it's not as if they're out there. Well, they are sort of lurking a bit, I guess. I don't mean to frighten you, but there could be one out your window right now. But they definitely gravitate toward a non-credible witness. And it's part of their trickster behavior. It's a way of keeping people from finding them or fully perhaps acknowledging them, and sort of adding to that madness of this non-credible witnesses experience. Sometimes it's a wake-up call. You know, the trickster usually comes along when you really need to reevaluate what path you're on.
How do they get you? How do they attack? How do they bring that good or bad fortune to you?
Well, Pookas specifically aren't necessarily, they don't necessarily attack. They will appear. They might throw you. So a lot of times they'll appear as, in Irish folklore especially, they will appear as rabbits or horses. And the horses are usually pretty frightening. They're large, they're black, they have glowing red eyes, and they will sort of toss you onto their back and take you on this wild midnight ride across the hills until you feel that you're sure to die because you're heading straight toward a cliff, and then they'll stop. Now, occasionally people are driven to madness and do actually hurl themselves off a cliff in order to escape. But by and large, the Pookas leave whoever they encounter they leave them. They leave them in a ditch on the side of the road. They don't drain their blood. They don't take their energy. They just really scare them. Or just sort of lead them down the wrong path and confuse them. Let's say you're walking home at night and suddenly this sort of rabbit appears and it starts talking to you and you start following it. I mean, that's a trickster Pooka right there. So they don't really cause specific harm in the way that other creatures can, but and certainly there are more harmful members of the fairy kingdom. But the Pookas really, I mean, you wouldn't want to encounter one, but if you did, you would probably survive. So you probably would be okay.
So are they just there to mess around with you, much like David Weatherly told me about garden gnomes, or if you don't show them the respect that they feel they deserve, that they are literally going to plant some evil revenge on you?
Well, I don't think Pookas necessarily have the long-range stalking ability of some of the, or desire of some of the other fairies out there. I think they don't stick with one person quite as much. Although I will say there's a caveat there. In many places, the word, I have heard many an Irish grandma refer to fairies in general as Pookas. So when I'm talking about a Pooka, I'm talking specifically about this sort of quote unquote defined shape-shifting animal-like trickster fairy of the fairy kingdom. But sometimes when someone says a Pooka, they are referring to the greater kingdom at large, and it can be something that might be more like an elf or a leprechaun or a sprite or some other kind of character. But the Pookas don't really necessarily hang with the same victim as much as they kind of do a good, it's almost like a good thump on the head, like, you know, your Italian grandma would give you when you got caught smoking. That's kind of, I see their role more along those lines. And from everything that I've read and the stories that I've gathered as I've talked to people, the Pookas really are kind of playing some pretty mean jokes, but it's really there to, it's almost always somebody that, you know, really should just shape up and and figure out what they're doing with their life and stop stumbling home from the pub at 2 a.m. when they have, weans at home.
So in other words, the Pookas don't like fun.
The Pookas are fun. There's
not acting like it.
There's another thing about the Pookas that, so I think that the legend of the Headless Horseman actually comes from some Pooka legends, because there are a couple of accounts of Pookas being, hearing the sort of the whinny of the Pooka out in the field, and then seeing something more like a ghostly carriage being pulled by the large black horses. Or occasionally, there are 2 stories that I know of that refer to a Pooka as having a headless rider, or sort of a ghostly cloaked rider. So I think the legend of the Headless Horseman probably was, inspired by some of these original Pooka sightings.
Well, we have about 5.5 minutes before we got to go to break. Varla Ventura is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. You mentioned that these Pookas could be looking at our windows right now, staring at us. What do these little creatures look like?
Well, Pookas are not little. They're not little at all, Dave. They're large, especially in their horse form. They're larger than you, and they're strong. So they aren't necessarily the type that will leer in your window. They're the type that will lie in wait as you are walking on that path a little too late at night on as you called it, a moonless night. Those are the times when the Pookas kind of really, and they do love to get people coming home from parties. They really do. So let that be a lesson to you when you're out there drinking and walking.
Oh, that's only saved for Vegas.
Beware.
Only saved for Vegas.
The Pooka path.
I don't see any horses riding down Las Vegas Boulevard at about 5 o'clock in the morning, so I think I'm safe there.
Well, you won't see the Pooka coming.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No, you will not see the Pooka coming. It will just sort of step out and halt you in your path. It's not, you can occasionally hear it in the distance, and that's when you quicken your step and get back into the cottage ASAP. If you hear any sort of whinny in the distance, you're going to want to double time at home. But you typically won't see the Pooka coming.
Well, that's no fun.
Well,
no fun at all.
Well, I mean, there's the element of surprise. I think that's
just like Jaws in the movie. Perfect.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably find some connections to sharks and Pookas in that way, but they aren't predatory. There are some fairies that are a little more menacing or predatory, but again, like you said, as your friend David Weatherly told you, when you are disrespectful, especially, that's when they can get pinchy and mean. And that happens a lot with the domestic fairies that help us, keep the cobwebs out of the corners and sort of keep the evil spirits at bay. If you're not respectful and you sort of expect them to do something that, expect them to clean or anything like that, then that's when you run into trouble.
Makes sense, I think.
Well, just think of it in the way, I think of the fairy kingdom in the way that you might think of the plant kingdom. There are trees and there are weeds, and there's everything in between. So fairy is not a one-size-fits-all, and there are as many variations in the fairy kingdom as there are deviations in the human mind, I guess.
Could a Bigfoot or Dogman be considered a Pooka?
I could see that. Well, I would probably put the Dogman more in the category of something like a werewolf, in that kind of category of but there is a shape-shifting element with the dog man. I don't see the Bigfoot as a shapeshifter. And they don't seem particularly tricky. I mean, they can outwit us and they can outrun us and they can outlast us. But I don't see them as willingly seeking an encounter in order to sort of trick or scare someone. But you know more about Bigfoot than I do. I don't know that I would consider Bigfoot a Pooka, but I could see other connections in the fairy or magical creature realm. I mean, you can call them cryptids, you can call them magical creatures, but there's a lot of crossover there.
With 1 minute to go here, author Ronald Murphy, otherwise known as the crypto guru around these parts, he tends to believe that Bigfoot is part of the fairy realm. Would you agree or disagree with that?
I would probably agree with that. I think that there are a lot of things that we equate in the paranormal community, especially with everything from poltergeists to Bigfoot to alien abductions that have a lot of similarities to things in the fairy kingdom and experiences that people have had in the fairy kingdom. So I think it kind of comes down to definition. I'm not dismissing anybody's experience, but I do think that there are times that we think that there might have been a poltergeist and it could have just been a really angry hobgoblin that wasn't getting their cake at night. So yeah, I could see that also just in the greater realm if we're looking at the fairy kingdom to encompass more of the magical sort of cryptid creatures in general. I could totally see it.
Varla Ventura, you hold on, because coming up on hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio, we're going to get into werewolves, banshees, witches, vampires, everything with Varla Ventura tonight on Spaced Out Radio.
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want, when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
Coming up this September 21st and 22nd, all UFO eyes will be focused on Toronto for the 4th Annual Alien Cosmic Expo. Come listen to some of the biggest names and experiencers in ufology. Travis Walton, Paul Hellyer, Richard Dolan, Paula Harris, Grant Cameron, Randy Kramer, and Spaced Out Radio's own Dave Scott. Tickets are on sale now at aliencosmicexpo.com.
Did you know Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi there, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm here to take you on a paranormal journey each Saturday and Sunday night. Why change the station when you have it all?
Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar-Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new, with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Looking for the stories of the strange and weird that you will find hard to find anywhere else? Check out the SOR Newswire on our website. Our writers, led by Captain Shirk, are scouring the world for the oddest and most bizarre stories we can find. Everything from weird crime to suspenseful and paranormal. We're working hard for you to bring you the most intriguing news of your day. Check out the SOR Newswire at spacedoutradio.com today. Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar-Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social Media Freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel. The freedom to know Big Brother isn't watching. It's the way social media is supposed to be. Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free. Download from your app store today.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
On the first Tuesday of every month, I encourage you to come along for a journey with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You. Together, we will take a look at how to access the highest expression of yourself and change your life. Consciousness, ET contact, health, and wellness, we can talk about it all. So come along for a spiritual ride with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You, only on Spaced Out Radio.
Looking for the stories of the strange and weird that you will find hard to find anywhere else? Check out the SOR Newswire on our website. Our writers, led by Captain Shirk, are scouring the world for the oddest and most bizarre stories we can find. Everything from weird crime to suspenseful and paranormal. We're working hard for you to bring you the most intriguing news of your day. Check out the SOR Newswire at spacedoutradio.com today.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thaw, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio. Tonight, I am your host, Dave Scott. Thanks for being with us. Tomorrow night on the show, Goddess Michelle from our Twitter listeners is joining us to talk about her lifetime of strange experiences. It's going to be a good one. 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern at spacedoutradio.com. Hi to everyone listening in on KDUN AM 1030 in Reedsport, Oregon, KZFX 93.7 FM in Ridgecrest, California, WQEE 99.1 FM in Newnan, Georgia, and UPRN 107.7 FM in New Orleans. On the digital side, Revolution Radio, Deep Talk Radio, great to have you with us. Don't forget, all of our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Xerophthalmia. Xerophthalmia is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, which is currently under construction. We're rebuilding it for you to make it bigger and better, just as you demanded. Varla Ventura comes in every couple of months to talk everything cryptid going on around the world. She is a very talented writer, and if you haven't checked out any of her books, you're missing on out. Go to Amazon.com, type in Varla Ventura. There's a whole plethora of books for you to choose from. Her website, varlaventura.net. Varla, welcome back to the show.
Why, thank you. What a lovely
Always
evening.
a pleasure. Always a pleasure to have you here. It is a lovely evening.
It is.
When I think of banshees, I think of a haggard, angry female spirit species, whatever you want to call it, that is rustling through the winds of the night, maybe near the ocean, scaring the living daylights out of me. I think of the old sea hag from the Popeye cartoons way back in the day. That's what I think. How far off am I on that?
I'd say that you're not that far off. There are a lot of accounts of banshees being sort of horrific looking hags. Most often they actually appear to be fairly attractive, at least at first. The most common banshee sighting is, in addition to the sound of wailing, a sort of disheveled, frightened-looking woman who, upon, as soon as you make contact or try and offer any comfort, transforms into something rather horrific, opens its mouth, and screams out the darkness. Occasionally, you might find a little old lady walking alongside the road that you might want to offer a hand to. And as you approach and lay out your arm for her to take hold of, again, she transforms into this rather hideous and frightening creature. Banshees are completely straddle the world of fairy and ghost. And yet their name, the very name Banshee, means of the fairy mound. So they're sort of the quintessential fairy creature. But the reason I say they sort of straddle that world of ghosts is that banshees, their main role and their appearances usually signal, if not death, then grave illness or some sort of extreme misfortune to the family of whomever sees the banshee or hears the banshee. It might be somebody within the community, so it could be part of a clan or a group. But, you know, back in the day, you were kind of related to half the people in the village. So you might see the banshee. Now, if you hear the banshee call, that can be a warning. But if you actually see the banshee, there are a lot of warning ghosts throughout the world. There are ghosts that are thought to be inherited by different generations and be seen by different generations of the same family, that portends death. And those are sometimes also referred to as banshees. But technically speaking, a banshee is an Irish fairy that warns you of imminent death or illness. And
the one thing that really, sorry about that. The one thing that really kind of confuses me about all these things that are warning us or playing tricks on us or there to heed some danger, they all seem to be shapeshifters. Why is that?
Well, I think that in order to really, really scare you, they're going to appear one way and transform. So I wouldn't say that a banshee is so much of a shapeshifter. The general appearance of a banshee doesn't change as much, except for the hideous mouthful of darkness. I guess that's definitely, I guess that could be considered shifting shape. But I think that they defy the normal rules of perception. And because of that, they have that ability to appear as one thing and then actually become something else, that reveal their true selves. Now, banshees are, we hear today, I mean, you've probably heard of the Screaming Banshee. You've probably heard of the band, Susie and the Banshees. You've heard of banshees associated with sound, with this wailing, mourning sound. And there's a lot of belief that that sound is the sound of a woman in mourning. If you've ever been to an Irish funeral or been to a funeral where someone is keening, which is essentially a sort of semi-melodic way of mourning and moaning, the banshee call is not unlike that. And it's interesting because there's actually a movie that just came out called La Llorona, which is about a very kind of similar creature in Mexican culture that is a warning kind of woman who seems to be in mourning. And it's said that the Banshee and La Llorona either drowned their own children, and that is why they are in perpetual mourning and sort of banished to this fairy purgatory to, warn people of of illness or something like that happening to them. And it's also sometimes associated with women who died in childbirth. So I think that these associations come specifically from sort of our worst fears. And for many people, the idea of losing a child or dying in childbirth, something along those lines, those are considered to be pretty extreme, non-natural, non-expected ways to die, especially when you consider that we're going back, several centuries in terms of the folklore, especially in a place like Ireland. So as far as being able to shapeshift, I think that comes with the fact that they are supernatural creatures. I mean, that's kind of the bonus, being supernatural. You can just kind of walk through walls, turn into different things.
See, when I think shapeshifter, I'm always thinking skinwalkers.
Yeah, I think that that's an accurate association, but there are a lot of other shapeshifters, and I think that werewolves especially fall in that category. But there are some, and I think we even think of vampires, if you think vampires to a certain extent are sort of shapeshifters. Within the fairy realm, the sort of more traditional fairy realm, there are a lot of things that shapeshift, such as the Pooka, which might turn from, an innocent little bunny into this kind of menacing, warning beast or trickster beast. The Banshee's kind of freaky no matter what, but you definitely have things that defy. Kind of get back to that idea of time again and perception. It defies what we would think of. Like, we are just one solid thing, right? Like, we don't shapeshift. We are just one thing, but we can shapeshift. Metaphorically speaking, we can certainly shapeshift. We can change our appearances. We can do a lot of things, but not in the sense that we think about with the fairy kingdom or with other cryptids or legendary beings that can just kind of transform into something else. But when you get to kind of the heart of analyzing something like a werewolf, for example, there are a couple of people who did a great deal of research on werewolves at a time when no one else was really studying them. And that was sort of in the late 1800s. There was a man named Sabine Baring Gould who was a reverend. He was an English reverend, and he did sort of something like what the Grimm brothers did, traveling around and gathering these fairy tales. He was studying werewolves, and it was sort of a labor of love for him. He wrote this massive volume of work about werewolves. And he was also a philosopher, and of course he has his own anglicized view of these cultures and what he was seeing and what he was experiencing. But one thing that always stuck with me that he really talked about was the fact that all of us have the capacity, any human person has the capacity to become a werewolf. And that is because we have the capacity to completely lose control. And you see it in like a serial killer at an extreme, but you also see it, in milder fashion when you just get angry. There are times when you lose control. Everybody loses control at some point. And the idea that is sort of the key to unlocking what might then lead you to a, feverish behavior that would result in you shapeshifting into something like a werewolf. He uses that as evidence to suggest that not only are werewolves real, but that we actually all have the capacity to become them at any given point, which is pretty freaky.
Varla Ventura is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Varla, do you have any modern day stories that you have heard of this actually happening?
Of werewolves or of somebody?
Werewolves, banshees, any type of shape-shifting into creatures?
Yeah, I get stories all the time from people who have had, they've read my books and they'll reach out to me through email or Facebook or something like that, and they'll share a story with me. And in fact, in the Mermaid book, I had a woman write me and tell me about this story this experience she had where she encountered some kind of merman appeared in her room. She was down in the Bahamas somewhere, and she was in sort of one of those little huts that's right along the water, and she was staying in this place with her mom. And her mom said she woke up in the night and felt kind of something strange in the room and then fell back asleep. And the woman she sort of sat upright and she saw this being in her room, sort of dripping water, standing at kind of toward the foot of the bed. And she actually even sent me a sketch of it, and it looked very fairy-like and almost alien-like. And she said she hadn't been back to that same place and didn't really talk about it when like the next day over breakfast, she kind of didn't, you don't always just go up to the concierge and say, so has anyone else ever reported a dripping merman in their room? It's just something you feel kind of like conflicted and a little weird about it. Like, did that actually happen? So I get stories like that pretty frequently. I had a wonderful story that this guy told me. I was on his show, and he told me he's in England, and he told me this story of when he was a child, there was a little room like a little closet under his stairs. And kind of like, you think of where Harry Potter was supposed to his little bedroom, but there was this room under his stairs, and he, for, I think it was over like a 2-week period or so, he kept opening this door, and there was actually this little man in there. He was a child. He was only about 10 years old, and it kept trying to get him to like drink this liquid that it had. And it was actually trying to trick him into, because they say once you drink or eat something in the fairy kingdom, you're kind of under their control. And he actually hadn't talked about that much, but I was on his show and we were kind of talking about it, and he told me that story. And since then he's talked to a couple of other people about it and kind of shared that story with the general world. And it's a pretty amazing story, but I get stories like that all the time of people who have had specifically, a floating head that they think was a banshee, a crazy scream. Not long after that, someone in their family passed away. And, so I'm kind of constantly getting these stories. As far as like, do I know anyone that has shapeshifted into a werewolf? Personally, I do not know anyone. But I do know, that of people who have, changed. I think there's in a sort of, borderline schizophrenic way. And I do think also that some of these things, some of the things that we called fairies or we called werewolves or even vampires, or witches, especially today, we can look scientifically and realize that there may have been a mental illness that was diagnosed or understood at the time. So always when I'm reading these accounts of, these kind of creatures and things, I do like to kind of think about the time it was retold, who was retelling it, whose point of view did it come from, and are we really just describing somebody who had a mental illness that was undiagnosed that today we can treat? So there's a lot of, there's no one answer, but I'm constantly getting modern cryptid stories, as I'm sure you get them all the time on your show and just in your line of work.
I want to ask you about that, though, because take out the mental illness portion of this. Is there a pattern to the type of people this is happening to? Is it happening to people who are in more remote areas comparatively to urban areas or metropolis type areas? Is it happening to people who are more in line with their own spirituality outside of religion? There has to be some sort of pattern to this.
So I would say that I think in terms of sort of a paranormal experience, if you're having something that you would identify as a ghost or a spirit encounter, I think that has no pattern. That could happen to anybody, any place, anytime. But it's not really anybody. It's a person that somehow has the ability to see that. And I think that that's also true with any kind of encounter with the fairy realm. That is considered the second sight. To be able to see something that other people can't see, literally cannot see. Once upon a time, that was considered a gift of, the highest degree. And that, that was something that was revered. Today, we sort of look at that as being somewhat unstable or maybe not, being a couple floors short. But in reality, it means that we are open to another perception, right? We're open to like other possibilities. And when you're open to other possibilities, that's how you learn new things. So often that sort of, the idea that somebody would see this and that they're crazy, I don't think that really holds up at all, especially in the modern day. But overall, I would say, I don't think it has nothing to do with location or economic background or intelligence. I think that some people, just like some people have a really good singing voice and other people don't, people are born with a gift of the sight. They might not always know it. They probably inherited it. Most people I know that have had these experiences, when you get them talking, their grandparent used to talk about something along these lines. There's a generational gap of actually discussing these kinds of things. But I would say by and large, it's people who actually have a gift and are able to see it, even if it frightens them. So it doesn't have a specific pattern in terms of people have urban encounters all the time. People have probably more common in rural areas or when you're communing with nature, because fairies tend to be part of the natural world, in terms of forests and rivers and streams and things like that, but it's not exclusive to that. So you could have an encounter in a public garden or on a dark street in the suburbs late at night. It's entirely possible. It's more about, I think, the person and what their background is. And they don't even have to believe. I'm not saying you have to believe. You have to believe in fairies to see one. But you will at some point have to believe that you saw one, if that makes any sense.
It very well does. We got just under 90 seconds before we go to break here. At the bottom of the hour, Varla Ventura is our guest. How does someone know if they are seeing a fairy?
There are so many different fairies, but it won't be translucent the way a ghost is. So that's probably the number one difference, is that if you're having a paranormal or a supernatural experience with some kind of spirit or ghost, it may not be a solid entity. Sometimes it'll appear to be solid, but usually there's some kind of sort of fuzziness about it. With fairies, they often feel incredibly real as like a little raccoon scurrying through your yard. So I think that's probably the number one sign. And then there's just so many different physical characteristics of everything from the domestic fairies to the garden fairies to the fairies that dwell in mines and in mountains. So there's a lot of, they fit a lot of different physical descriptions. So it's hard to know. It's difficult to say, oh, it's going to look like this. But if you encounter something that, doesn't quite look human and it's talking to you, or it's showing you something, or it's asking you for something, and it doesn't feel ghosty, I don't know how else to put it, doesn't feel ethereal.
Right.
Odds are it's a fairy.
Varla, you hold on. Varla Ventura is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Cryptid talk all night long with the absolutely brilliant author Varla Ventura. More chatter about fairies, banshees, vampires coming up.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Did you know Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi there, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm here to take you on a paranormal journey each Saturday and Sunday night. Why change the station when you have it all right here? Together, we'll hang out and share some strange and scary stories. And don't forget, we have Psychic Sundays as well, so come tune in Spaced Out Weekend. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com, where we own the night.
Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar-Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Coming up this September 21st and 22nd, all UFO eyes will be focused on Toronto for the 4th Annual Alien Cosmic Expo. Come listen to some of the biggest names and experiencers in ufology: Travis Walton, Paul Hellyer, Richard Dolan, Paula Harris, Grant Cameron, Randy Kramer, and Spaced Out Radio's own Dave Scott. Tickets are on sale now at aliencosmicexpo.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want, when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
We're bringing scientific thought to the paranormal. Hi there, this is Spaced Out Radio scientist Chris Cogswell. Join me, Chris Zuger, and Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month, where we break down the who from the woo when it comes to everything paranormal. We'll investigate and try to bring sensible answers to those straight and sometimes outlandish questions people have. Hey, not everything has an answer, but we'll do our best. Listen in to Reality Paranormal only on Spaced Out Radio.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Love having each and every one of you tuning on in. Remember, if you've missed portions of this show's or others, you can always visit our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. The only thing I ask in return is for you to hit that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate that. Our website, as you've probably noticed, is under construction. We're making it bigger and better, all because of your demand. So stay tuned for that in the next couple of weeks. Author Varla Ventura is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. She stops by every couple of months to say hello and tell us some weird, strange cryptid stories from around the world. Her website, varlaventura.net. You can find all of her books on Amazon.com. Varla, welcome back to the show. And right before the break, we were talking about fairies. And one of the questions I have for you in regards to fairies, have you ever been sitting outside just staring at a forest at night or as it's turning to night, and you see these orbs just all of a sudden start lighting up the trees, almost like they're little shiny lights? Now, some people may say, well, those would be fireflies, wouldn't they? But I know I live in an area where there are none. And yet, every now and again, we'll see these little flickers, almost like orbs of light, just go on and off. A lot of people say those are fairies showing you where they are. What do you think?
Well, I have spent quite a bit of time doing just that, staring into the darkening woods, especially at twilight. And I have seen a lot of interesting things. I've seen lights, I've seen little flashes, I've seen little fluttering. Now, I grew up in a pretty rural area. Most of my formative years were spent in the forest. So I do feel like I know the difference between a scurrying forest creature and something else. Where I grew up, we did not have fireflies. Where I live now, I do see them. And we did, you occasionally would see some bioluminescent, fungus or something growing along a stump if you got deep into some really old growth forest. But I have seen a number of things, enough since I was a child and even as an adult. And I think less so as a grown person, because it takes a little bit longer to turn off all your things, to just be able to space out and, hey, Spaced Out Radio, be able to just space out and look into something like that and really relax your mind. But that is often when I have seen things. So yes, I've seen flashes of light, and I do think that some of those things could be actual bioluminescent bugs, of course, but I've heard and seen enough things to know that those are the times when fairies can reveal themselves to you. And actually, I heard an amazing story about this sort of firefly. I don't know if you've ever listened to Jim Harold's podcast. He has a great podcast.
Jim
great
Harold's
show.
a great guy. Great guy.
Oh my God, love him. And he has this wonderful podcast. Well, he has like 4 podcasts, but he has one, I think it's called Campfire Stories, where people call in and they give their stories. And I wish I could remember what the name of this episode is, but this guy calls in and he tells this magnificent story about being at this battle site where all of these Scottish Highlanders who had come over, who were kind of brought over to fight against George Washington, entered into this battle and were all killed. And they have this reenactment. And so they go out there and they've got music and they're dressed in the traditional regalia. And they went out and they were playing some pipes at the monument that's commemorating where all these people died. And they had this sort of swarm of what seemed like fireflies, but they followed them. And as they walked away playing the music, these fairy firefly things followed them. Now, I've seen fireflies and they don't follow people. Anyway, the man who tells it is a wonderful, wonderful storyteller. I think if you just kind of binge listen to some of Jim Harold's Campfire Stories, you'll probably come upon it. But he told this wonderful story, and I just thought, yeah, that's like completely fairy-like to just follow. And then when they got to the end of the battlefield and they had to cross this road, they stopped and they stayed, and then they eventually flickered out. So I have no doubt that there are fairies, and fairies are often associated with those lights. And the reason we even think of Tinkerbell and that light, in J.M. Barrie's Peter Pan, he does talk about this sort of flickering fairy light. And that is something that goes back to, he was an English author and he knew well the fairy lore of the British Isles. So that idea goes back centuries and centuries to some of the early written accounts of what is a fairy and how to know if you've seen a fairy or you will see a fairy.
Question coming from our chat room here, and this one comes from Jade. Varla, have you ever seen any type of cryptid, elemental, fairy, gnome, elf, etc.? What are your experiences?
Yes, I have. I've seen a few things. I will say I have had more what I consider paranormal experiences than fairy or cryptid experiences. I've had a lot of sort of ghost sightings and feelings, pressings, whatever you want to call it. And in my most recent book, I finally kind of wrote about a lot of those things, just the experiences that I've had since a child, seeing what looked like my grandpa and things like that. But I have had a couple of experiences. I did see a leprechaun at one point.
You have to tell that. You have to tell that story.
So I was really young, and I think that because I was so young, I completely believed it. But then as I got older, I doubted it a little bit. And then as I got even older still, I came to believe it again. That's probably the story of everyone's life, right? Like that's kind of how the trajectory of your life goes. The older you get, the more you believe what you saw in your childhood was real. And we had moved out of the San Francisco Bay Area, and we had moved up to the foothills of Northern California to this kind of mining town. And we were living in a trailer in a in a campsite. We were just camping out for the summer. My parents were looking for land, and they had spotted something, but they weren't sure. And so we basically had sold our house, and we were living in this trailer. It was my sister and I and my parents. And where we were was alongside this beautiful river, and then there was a creek that flowed into the river. And my mom being my mom, we didn't know where we were going to go to school. So when summer ended and all of the campers went away in like mid-August, we basically had the campsite to ourselves. And so we spent a lot of time. And actually at this time, my mom at night would light a kerosene lamp or a candle, and she would actually read to us from various books, among them Grimm's and Andersen's fairy tales. So I had fairy tales, but if you've read any of those, they're not explicit like this. They're not fairy tales like I'm going to tell you what a fairy looks like. They're more sort of, creepy allegories for things you're supposed to not do as a young lady and stuff like that. So, but anyway, so I'm down by this creek and I'm playing alone, and I'm just sort of just sitting there, and I look up, and not out of the corner of my eye, dead in front of me, I see what completely looks like what I think of as a leprechaun. I mean, it's kind of I guess maybe 12 to 14 inches, a little bit mossy looking. I wouldn't say green as in all in green clothes, but sort of mossy looking, kind of just sort of blended in with the leaves. And I looked, and I was so shocked. I sort of, my jaw dropped open, and I see this little thing, and it's got a kind of a human little face, just like you would expect a leprechaun to look. Didn't have the top hat, or, it wasn't saying top of the morning to you or anything like that. It just was kind of looking at me. It's like you caught it and it caught you, like a fox or something. And, I looked at it, and then I was so excited. I was not scared at all. I was so excited. I yelled for my mom, "Bah, you gotta see this. There's a leprechaun down here." And of course I turned my head, and no sooner did I turn my head that I looked back, and the only thing I could see was the leaf, kind of a big umbrella plant. It was a large leaf, and it was just sort of moving in the wind, and there was nothing there. And my mom came running thinking, I'd gotten bit by a rattlesnake or something, and was pleased to know that I had seen a leprechaun instead. And I did, lucky for me, my mom wasn't dismissive. Just as with my ghost encounters as a young girl, I was not dismissed. It wasn't like, okay, you're just making that up, or, oh no, you just had a bad dream. She was very understanding of that realm and had a lot of experiences herself. And so she just would ask me a few questions, kind of make me feel better if she thought I was scared, but she could tell I wasn't scared. I was so excited. And then I was so disappointed that it wasn't still there. And I think ever since that moment of seeing that, I can still see the leaf moving, I know that feeling of knowing something is there, and yet it's gone. And I think that sort of that chasing the leprechaun has been in my blood ever since.
Let's get to another question here, because that was a pretty amazing story. Renee is asking,
hi, Renee.
Varla, could you please tell us, well, it's actually almost the same. Could you please tell us about any cryptids that you've had with experiences?
Well, I guess, okay, so cryptids being like something more like you would think of
outside.
Like
Let's go outside of the fairy realm.
Well, if we must, I can tell you about a pretty interesting. So I've spent a lot of time in the woods as an adult, but also as a kid and as a teenager. We had no malls. Like, we would all just go and like camp in the woods. That's what we would do. We would just camp. We'd make a fire. As we got older, we would smoke and drink around that fire. But, generally that was the thing. Even as like teenagers, it was just like, okay, let's just go camp out and, poke sticks at things. And it was just being in the woods, make out under a tree, whatever.
Wow,
and there, there were a few times that, you know that the woods are full of actual threats, and where we lived, there were a lot of mountain lions, and there are quite a few bears. So we all growing up there, we knew this, especially with the mountain lions, you had to be careful. And that's, we would always have a big fire. And there was one time that I definitely saw something loping. Don't think it was a bear, could have been a bear, but it was lopey enough, and it was complete, teenage scenario where, I got to pee, and I went off into the woods on my own, and there was something loping on its, back legs, not far from there. I don't know what it was. It could have been a sort of Bigfooty type thing, hanging out, listening to us as we talked and giggled and did all the things that we were doing. But it didn't scare me. I'd never been a person that scares really easily, especially in a forest. It didn't scare me, but it did make me feel like, reminder, there's something else out here. And I have definitely had a number of unexplained lights and sort of more what I would consider UFO experiences. I've had quite a few of those, especially growing up where I did, where, all the stars are out and you're up on the top of this mountain, and then there's a light that is moving towards you. And oddly, this story also involves being a teenager and making out. So I'm not sure. There could be a pattern here. But I did see, really specifically, I saw, it was up on a top of a mountain on the hood of a car, and kind of hanging out with this boyfriend of mine, and, making out, looking around. And there was no one else up there. It was completely isolated and incredibly beautiful, and a total star-filled night. And, every once in a while we'd look up, and there was this light. It looked red. Now today, if this had happened today, I would think some creeper was out there with a drone camera and was filming us. That's what I would think. But this was, I won't tell you how, this was 20 years ago. So this was before drones and before let's just say it was before the internet. And this light kept getting closer and closer. And after the third time it felt like it was getting closer, that's when I said to my boyfriend, "Do you see that?" And he said, "What, that red light that keeps getting closer to us?" And I said, yeah, that. So we kind of stopped what we were doing and we watched it for a while. And we were on the top of a mountain where you can see down on either side. If you've ever been to the foothills in Northern California, there's a lot of sort of valleys and gullies. And so you can see for miles and miles and miles. You can see the next ridge over. And we couldn't see. You would be able to tell if it was a helicopter, or there was no noise. So we thought, okay, it must be something. We just haven't heard the sound yet. And so we sat still for a while. And not only did it get closer, but it seemed to notice us. Like, it seemed to be in direct line with us. And as it started to get really pretty close, like it was growing in size, we couldn't tell what it was. We just kept seeing this red light. We just looked at each other and we were like, let's get the F out of here. And we jumped in the car and we just drove down the hill for miles and miles until we finally pulled over, and it really scared us. So that is not actually a cryptid story, but it's definitely an experience that I had that was unexplained. So there you go.
We got about 3.5 minutes with Varla Ventura before we got to take a break at the top of the hour. This show is flying by. Now, my buddy Mike is in the chat room tonight. He's got a great goatee, so that's why we like to ask his questions.
Nice. Yeah. Fair enough.
On Sunday, we went out into the forest, literally in the middle of nowhere, looking for any signs of Sasquatch, because we do have reports around here. And Mike took me on a trail where a couple of years ago, he actually experienced a blue orb floating through the bushes. Now, this thing was probably the size of, I'm going to say, a baseball to a soccer ball type size. I know Mike will probably correct me on that. And he's asking, are these orbs likely to reappear in the same location at the same time?
I would say yes. Now, my experience with orbs have all been in places that were haunted. Those are when I have seen an orb, and the orbs that I have seen blue ones, I have seen bright pink ones, and I have also seen later in photographs orbs that I didn't see with the naked eye that, appeared in photographs. And in one instance, I did have like a docent at this weird old haunted mansion tell me that there was a particular place that the photograph, like, I talked to her later and she said, yeah, a lot of people show photographs and they do have orbs in that area. I think definitely orbs are, it's almost, I don't know exactly how to explain it, but it seems like it's like an interim manifestation. So if it's indicating that it's a haunted place and it's something it's a spirit, but it's not fully manifesting in a recognizable way, as in, looks kind of like the face of your grandma or something like that, but you might see these orbs. So I would guess that, under the right circumstances in that place, you would see them again, and probably other people have seen them as well.
Well, I don't know how many people actually track through there, but our area where we live, it has a lot of UFO sightings. A lot. And I'm wondering if it had any ties to do with UFOs, as we got about a minute to go.
Yeah, some of the things that we know now that we didn't know 20, 30, 40 years ago about technology and what technology has developed, some of those quote unquote unidentified things have been sort of identified, but there are so many things that haven't been explained. And I have found, and when I was researching my fairy book in particular, there were several instances where the descriptions of the fairies with sort of placid, almost bioluminescent skin and large dark almond eyes and sort of ovally heads. I mean, the descriptions sounded so much like the descriptions that people give of aliens, that these sort of goblin-like things and these alien encounters, I started really wondering, maybe these are all part of the same thing.
Varla, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. Author Varla Ventura is with us for another 30 minutes. Heading into hour number 3 of Spaced Out Radio. Where will we go? Got to stay tuned to find out. It's going to be a monster of some kind. We'll be back right after this on Spaced Out Radio. At spacedoutradio.com, we have a little bit of everything for you to stay up late. So while you're there, check out our SOR Newswire, where our team brings you stories of the weird and strange to the WTF from around the globe. News on Bigfoot, UFOs, paranormal, Darwinian-type crime tales. It's the stories that the mainstream media usually won't touch. Well, we got them all on the SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Come hang out with Spaced Out Radio, where we own the night. This is Carl. You can follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, and during the show, use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio to chat with us live.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox. the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother is Watching.
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social Media Freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel. The freedom to know Big Brother isn't watching. It's the way social media is supposed to be. Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free. Download from your app store today.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
We are getting ready to relaunch the SOR Space Travelers Club at spacedoutradio.com. For $5 a month, you can join us for a plethora of features found nowhere else. Hang out in a private chat room during the show and after party. You can check out some exclusive content and a store specifically for you, as well as a private listener forum where you can post your thoughts, stories, and pictures. The SOR Space Travelers Club, coming soon to spacedoutradio.com.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new, with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
The Call of the Wild is in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is one of the hottest bars and restaurants in the city. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose will rock you like a hurricane all night long. Great food with everything on the menu at $6.95 near the corner of Nelson and Granville. Get your horns up and come rock with us. The Moose Vancouver, the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
On the first Tuesday of every month, I encourage you to come along for a journey with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You. Together, we will take a look at how to access the highest expression of yourself and change your life. Consciousness, ET contact, health, and wellness, we can talk about it all. So come along for a spiritual ride with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You, only on Spaced Out Radio.
Canada's largest UFO conference is ready to roll in Toronto this September 21st and 22nd at the Alien Cosmic Expo. This year is about the experience. Listen to the stories of Dave Scott, Travis Walton, Paula Harris, Grant Cameron, Ryan Stacy, Richard Dolan, Leslie Mitchell-Clark, and more. Get your tickets now at aliencosmicexpo.com.
Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar-Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com. Looking for the stories of the strange and weird that you will find hard to find anywhere else? Check out the SOR Newswire on our website. Our writers, led by Captain Shirk, are scouring the world for the oddest and most bizarre stories we can find. Everything from weird crime to suspenseful and paranormal. We're working hard for you to bring you the most intriguing news of your day. Check out the SOR Newswire at spacedoutradio.com today.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for coming along for the ride. Tomorrow night on the show, we bring in one of our listeners, Goddess Michelle. She has had a lifetime of weird, strange experiences. She's going to break them all down for us starting at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern at spacedoutradio.com. Hi to everyone listening in on WQEE 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia, KDUN AM 1030 in Reedsport, Oregon, UPRN 107.7 FM in New Orleans, and KZFX 93.7 FM in Ridgecrest, California. Thanks for broadcasting this show. On the digital side, we welcome in Revolution Radio, Deep Talk Radio. Good to have you with us. Don't forget, all of our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor. Hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Xerophthalma. Oh, I butchered that. Xerophthalmia. Xerophthalmia is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. Currently under construction. We're making it bigger. We're making it better. All because you have asked for it, so stay tuned for that in the next couple of weeks. Varla Ventura is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. She comes on every couple of months to hang out with us, tell us some weird cryptid stories from around the world and what she investigates. You can find all of her books at Amazon.com. You can also check out her website at varlaventura.net. Varla, thank you so much for coming on. We always have so much fun with you.
Oh, it's amazing how quickly the time goes, as late as it is for some of us. It's just, we hit the witching hour, and then it's all good.
Literally.
But thank you for having me back. It's so fun to be on your show again.
You're always welcome here. Always welcome here. Werewolves.
I'm just going to hang out.
Werewolves. I want to know about this because I don't believe in them.
Ooh,
I don't believe
really?
I don't believe people shapeshift into them. I mean, I thought my former mother-in-law was one, but that's about as close as I have come. Are they actually people transforming into werewolves? I mean, yes, we hear of Dogman. We hear of these weird, strange, 8 feet tall bipedal canines that are hanging out in the forests of Pennsylvania.
Definitely not a werewolf.
But werewolves, to me, it's just a great Hollywood tale. You? What's your thoughts?
Oh, I definitely believe in werewolves. I think that there's a lot. Well, first of all, I do believe in werewolves. However, there are a number of situations that, like the witch craze during the 1600s in Europe, there were a lot of situations that were sometimes blamed on werewolves as well as vampires. So sometimes there was crazy, erratic behavior that was led someone to be dubbed a werewolf and then therefore captured and burned at the stake, much like a witch. It was all around the same time. It was just more common to call people witches. But we touched on earlier a little bit about the idea of anyone having the capacity to become a werewolf. And I think what's key about that is that, we know that if we get really upset about something, we can actually affect ourselves, physiologically. We can increase our blood pressure. We can, cause ourselves to have blackouts. We can elevate our anxiety, whether we feel like we're actually in control of that or not. We could have a panic attack. There are a lot of things that physical things can create a physiological reaction. So by that token, especially when you hear of, there is actually a disease called lycanthropy, and it is a disease that somebody believes that they are a werewolf. They actually believe that by the light of the full moon, they shapeshift. Now, these people are generally institutionalized. But there's a connection between hormones, the moon, hair growth, all of these things. And there are hormonal imbalances that cause people to be hirsute, to be incredibly hairy and sort of not necessarily have erratic behavior because of that, but it can often be considered a hormonal imbalance. Now, the werewolf also is important in the way that we look at ourselves and at mankind. So we look at the vampire as this sort of secretive, but secretly desirable, thing that sort of slips into our room at night and drains us of our blood and then grants us immortality. But the werewolf we look at in a very different way. We look at the werewolf in a sympathetic way. Many of the stories about werewolves, some of the original stories about werewolves, involve at least one person not wanting to shapeshift, but knowing that they will shapeshift and trying to remove themselves from the group or the society that they're in order to protect the people that they love. Now, I don't know about you, but I've dated a few people who, try and warn you off by saying that, they have times when they can't control their emotions or that they're, completely out of control. And I have experienced people like that. So I think, and what this Reverend Sabine Baring-Gould was talking about back in the Victorian era, as he was observing a lot of these behaviors, the idea that we actually can cause these physical reactions in ourselves. Now, take it back a little further and think again, going back to like the very beginning of our conversation, we talked about some pagan rituals and effigies that were burning. Now, it was very common to don skins and don, perhaps it would be a bear skin or a wolf skin, especially a wolf skin in Lapland, in what is now Finland, throughout Siberia, a lot of the Eastern European regions where wolves were revered and feared. You would don a skin for part of a ritual. It might be a winter ritual. It might be a ritual to sort of invoke the spirit of those creatures to protect your family and your people, your tribe. So that ritual itself is a shape-shifting. So because of that, I guess when I think of the reality of that we use these rituals to transform, and that, there's a shamanistic element in that transformation, and that shamans do this sort of transformation from the physical into another plane for very good reason, usually very basic reasons like, protection and, health and happiness and, luck in battle. We know that these are rituals that are really important. And so to me, I think a lot of what we have in terms of the modern werewolf is misconstrued. But I do think that there's a supernatural creature at the base of all of that all of these, variations have sprouted off from. So it's almost like, I don't want to get religious, but it's almost like all of the interpretations of Jesus and who he was and what he was supposed to have done versus, who he actually was and what he really actually did. And you could argue with someone, till you're blue in the face about what that is. But I think that there are some origin stories with werewolves in particular that give a lot of credence. In addition, I think that we have a tendency to dismiss things that seem old or old-fashioned, and we do this a lot with indigenous cultures, that we immediately dismiss these sort of supernatural beings or these cryptids as being myths that were told to keep children close to the campfire, which they may well have done and served that purpose. But that doesn't mean that they weren't real or that they didn't exist, and that our idea of what is real and what is myth versus truth is a little warped in today's modern view of the difference between those things. So, in short, yes, I believe in werewolves. I do think that they're real, and I think that there's a lot of variations on why.
Varla Ventura is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. In regards to the way these werewolves and the mysticism behind them comes through time, through horror movies, through science fiction, do we believe that the full moon can transform an ordinary man into this? Do they have to have something running through their blood? Or are we just taking that a little bit too sci-fi?
Well, first of all, ask any EMT and they will tell you, or any nurse in any emergency room anywhere in the world, and they will tell you that on the full moon, their intake goes up. They're especially in concentrated urban areas. The full moon brings out the lunacy in all of us. So there's no denying that. There may not be a lot of scientific evidence to explain it, but it happens. We all feel differently under the light of the full moon. And for some of us, it can bring out some borderline madness. So I think there's a lot of credence to that connection of it really drawing out. It could draw out the best in someone. It could draw out the most manic in someone. It can draw out the worst in someone. So I think that the full moon itself as being part of it is definitely plays into it. Now, it's interesting because as you were asking me that, I just picked up my book about werewolves and I just sort of like put my thumb in and I landed on the chapter Natural Causes of Lycanthropy. And it's interesting because a lot of these things that are thought to trigger werewolfism or lycanthropy are also can be considered shamanistic tools and hallucinogenic things. In fact, there are streams. And so this, again, Sabine Baring-Gould wrote about these streams that were thought to contain lycanthropic waters. And if you drank them, that you could be transformed into a werewolf. But also the antidote to lycanthropy grew close to the stream. Now, we know full well that was his interpretation of it, but we know full well that you can drink water and something weird could happen to you. And the antidote to that could be, less than a foot away. So, and nature does that. Nature grows its antidote within a short distance of its poisons. It's kind of part of its MO. And anyone who's studied botany or gone on an herbal walk will, quickly discover that in their own neck of the woods. So there are, outside influences that can trigger this kind of behavior, and it can be substances. It can be like the berserkers who would just work themselves into a fervor and just kind of like go crazy getting ready to go into battle so that they would terrify their enemy. and go berserk. That's why we use that word berserk. Some people think that berserkers did actually use something that had like a methamphetamine like substance in it, like an ephedrine that really hyped them up. Jury's out on that. I'm sure somebody's out there diligently researching it to discover the answer, but it's not me. But anyway, there are certainly things that can transform or contribute to this, werewolf-like behavior, if not completely transform you into one. So don't go drinking from the stream.
All right. With vampires, though, we know there's this big cult following of people who drink blood, try and act the part of vampires out there. Do you believe real vampires exist? The immortal ones?
So, like Dick Clark, you mean?
Keith Richards, how it goes.
Okay, so I think that, vampires are interesting because vampires are more of like an infection, right? It's not like something that you willingly go after, but it does sort of require a little bit of, there's a little bit of consent usually involved in, going to that immortal side, at least if you look at something like Dracula or some of the greater lexicons of vampire myths and stories. Now, I know quite a few living vampires. They consider themselves to be living vampires. And contrary to popular belief, they do not all drink blood. Now, some of them may indulge in blood play, but by and large, a lot of the vampires enjoy the look and feel of something like a gothic vampire culture, but also take the idea of being a vampire and vampirism to more of a magical and ritualistic level. In other words, just as someone might approach witchcraft and become a Wiccan, they would follow certain rituals. They might have certain elements on their altar. They might celebrate certain holidays. There are a number of for lack of a better term, some vampire magic that's out there. Vampires, I think, they sort of transcend a lot of the ideas that we have about mortality and immortality. A lot of what we associate with a vampire comes from a time in which medical science was a very new field. And so there was a lot of grave robbing and a lot of creeping about in places you shouldn't be, and a lot of premature burial. And, for example, the very act of a vampire, we see the depiction of a vampire with sort of its arms crossed over its chest. And that's how you would lay someone to rest. You would put their arms crisscross. Well, when you're out grave robbing and you pry open a coffin and there's rigor mortis, the body might spring up. And by the way, they're not looking for old bodies, right? They're not being paid by the doctors secretly to go and rob the graves of someone who's been in there for months or years. They're going to find something fresh so that, they can do medical experiments on cadavers. That's how we have so much of what we know about modern medicine is actually based in some pretty gruesome grave robbing. So I think like things like that, where the, vampire springs up out of the coffin, that used to actually happen. Now imagine you're some, poor grave robber who's getting 10 shillings to pull this body out, and that happens. You're going to run out of there and you're going to say you saw a vampire. You're going to be convinced that it's a vampire. There's a lot of archaeological evidence to suggest that people believed in vampires, in Roman times and even pre-Roman, that there in parts of Italy, there are graves with bricks in mouths or people arranged in a certain way where it's apparent that the people believed that they were a vampire and they were buried in a certain way to keep them from coming back from the dead. But then that brings us right to zombies, which is another kind of realm of that immortality.
Many graves around the world with steel bars going across the grave, and so that way the person cannot wake up.
Cannot climb out.
Exactly. That's just eerie to me. Eerie to me. Don't know why, but it is just unbelievable. We only have about 3.5 minutes left with you tonight. Is there a cryptid or a fairy out there that you haven't covered yet, that just absolutely intrigues you, that you want to write about or find out something more about it because there's very limited information?
Well, one thing that comes to mind for me a lot, and as I, especially when I have discussions like we've had tonight where we're kind of talking about the origins of things, I think probably more than one specific creature, I find it interesting to also explore the implications of what people, sexism, racism, all kinds of sort of cultural views that have been dismissed, and how that plays into our perception of modern day cryptids, fairies, things like that. So at what point did those original stories change, and who changed them? So some of that kind of stuff fascinates me. And the more I get in the most recent book, in my Paranormal Parlor book, I do get into sort of the Victorian era and the spiritualist movement and what that meant to women specifically, sort of kind of freeing them in many ways from what their limited options. And I see different ways that our fairy tales, like I love to sort of dissect them, take them back to what they're originally meant to be, but be able to see kind of some of the patterns that happen again and again. But I also am constantly learning about new creatures as I research. Like someone will say, "Oh, haven't you heard of this whatever, little skittering man that bites the ankles of cattle in Colombia?" And I'll, so there's constantly new creatures. So many things I couldn't fit in the book because I had a deadline, and I kept learning. The more you read, the more you learn, and the more you research, the more you learn, and the more you talk to people, the more you learn. So I think that my next topic is really going to be something more human.
Don't blame you. Varla Ventura, I want to say thank you so much again for coming on Spaced Out Radio tonight. We got you scheduled for July. We just got to confirm the date. Right now I got you for July 4th. I don't know if that'll work for you.
Don't know. I didn't even, I would, July 4th, probably not, because,
maybe the 11th.
Fireworking.
Yes. You're a fireworker.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm an American fireworker.
So that's why I don't work on Canada Day. I don't work on Canada Day. Well, yes,
okay, good to know.
VarlaVentura.net is her website, so make sure you click on there. Takes you right to Amazon to get all of her books. You're amazing, Varla. Thank you so much for being with us. It's always a pleasure, and we will talk to you in July.
Thank you, Dave. I look forward to it. Thank you so much.
Me too. Varla Ventura, everybody. Thank you so much for listening on in, but the show continues as we got the SOR Newswire and the Thought of the Day. Lots of interesting stories coming on up. Did Sasquatch use an axe to chase a guy out of the forest? Stay tuned.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch. Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
We're bringing scientific thought to the paranormal. Hi there, this is Spaced Out Radio scientist Chris Cogswell. Join me, Chris Zuger, and Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month, where we break down the who from the woo when it comes to everything paranormal. We'll investigate and try to bring sensible answers to those straight and sometimes outlandish questions people have. Hey, not everything has an answer, but we'll do our best. Listen in to Reality Paranormal only on Spaced Out Radio.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Did you know Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi there, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm here to take you on a paranormal journey each Saturday and Sunday night. Why change the station when you have it all right here? Together, we'll hang out and share some strange and scary stories. And don't forget, we have Psychic Sundays as well, so come tune in Spaced Out Weekend. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com, where we own the night.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great gene harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar-Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Coming up this September 21st and 22nd, all UFO eyes will be focused on Toronto for the 4th Annual Alien Cosmic Expo. Come listen to some of the biggest names and experiencers in ufology. Travis Walton, Paul Hellyer, Richard Dolan, Paula Harris, Grant Cameron, Randy Kramer, and Spaced Out Radio's own Dave Scott. Tickets are on sale now at aliencosmicexpo.com.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, hanging out with all of you tonight from SOR headquarters in the frozen Canadian tundra. Reminder, if you miss most of this show or others, you can always go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do us the favor, hit that subscribe button. And, of course, our website, spacedoutradio.com, currently under construction, making some new improvements to it. So stay tuned. It's going to be coming up in the next couple of weeks. Let's get to the news of the day, brought to you by Paranoia Magazine. The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire at the back end of every show, where we look around the world to find the most intriguing stories we can to bring to your attention. The person who does that, Captain Shirk, our Newswire specialist, our news director. She does a great job in bringing it each and every night. We're going to start off in the state of California, where a judge has ordered to pay a couple to pay nearly $600,000. Why? They uprooted a 180-year-old oak tree that later died and caused other damage to a protected property just outside of San Francisco. The damage was discovered in 2014 when a concerned neighbor reported heavy equipment and digging on a property protected under a conservation easement. So the Land Trust Stewardship of the area went to check it out, found more than 3,000 cubic yards of dirt and rock had been removed, and a 180-year-old oak tree had been uprooted without permits for the work. The heritage oak was uprooted and bound so it could be dragged to an adjoining ranch where the property owners, Peter and Tony Thompson, had built a new estate home. So basically they were trying to steal a giant oak tree. Well, didn't like that. They now have to pay about $586,000 in damages towards environmental restoration and other costs. Shortly after the ruling, the Thompsons put the protected property and neighboring ranch on the market at $8.54 million. It's not good. Lots of trees out there, but they wanted that one. That's the one I want, Kitty. That's the one for our property. Let's head south, down to L.A., where at LAX, a South American chef was stopped after he was found with 40 frozen piranhas in a duffel bag. Famous chef Virgilio Martinez, chef owner at Central Restaurant in Peru, said that he was hoping to serve the predatory sharp-toothed fish during an LA food festival. Customs agents didn't agree with it, nor did they want the free meal. They pulled him into an interrogation room where they found the cache of frozen, vacuum-sealed piranhas. After 5 hours, the agents let Martinez through with the fish. He used them that night on a salad, because piranha salad apparently is very popular in Peru. And he dried the piranha skins and served them inside the piranha heads. That just doesn't sound appetizing. Does not sound appetizing whatsoever. Piranha head salad? You know, we've got some really cool things over the years from the Hubble Space Telescope, providing humans and humanity with our deepest views of the universe ever. After more than 29 years, though, after its launch, remember it was blind at first? They had to send up glasses for Hubble, the billion-dollar mistake. Well, Hubble is still the greatest tool we have for exploring the farthest reaches of the universe. But apparently it's hit its limits. Over the past few years, Hubble has released some of the greatest images we've seen, but it is now starting to say, I've gone too far. So now you got to wonder, how much is the replacement going to cost? Probably in the billions. But it cannot go more, according to the studies, than looking towards 9 billion light years. Billion. It's a lot of universes, a lot of star systems. How about pointing it towards Mars to see if there actually is life? Could we do that? Venus? Titan, the moon of Saturn? Randy Kramer's been to there. Why not? It's kind of interesting, though. 29 years since Hubble launched. It's just incredible. Incredible. Head over to Wisconsin, where a man was arrested after authorities say he came to the police department to claim a methamphetamine-filled backpack he had left at a northeastern Wisconsin library. A staffer at Shawano County Library found the backpack on Monday, turned it over to police. Prosecutors say there were 3 small bags of meth inside, along with martial arts weapons known as nunchucks. The 31-year-old suspect showed up at the police department later that day. Court documents say he told police he had taken the drugs from his ex-girlfriend because he was investigating her drug dealing, and that he had the nunchucks to protect himself from her. Well, police didn't buy it. He was arrested for drug possession. Jeff Bezos, the owner of Amazon, he wants to go to space now. Held a big press conference to show off the Blue Moon lunar landing vehicle. What happens when you're a multi-billionaire? You get into the space game. That's what you do. Calls it an incredible vehicle, and it's going to the moon. He unveiled the lunar lander from his secretive space company Blue Origin for the first time today. As a part of the big plan, he wants to send humans to the moon by 2024. Dubbed Blue Moon, the circular craft is capable of carrying 4 rovers and multiple metric tons of cargo. It is powered by a newly designed rocket engine called the BE-7. A version that can also transport people will follow and enable a sustained human presence on the moon. Bezos, the richest man in the world, detailed his dreams that one day humans will live in elaborate space colonies named O'Neill colonies, after American physicist Gerard K. O'Neill, who came up with the idea. But he said right now the price of admission to space was way too high because there's no infrastructure, not even a Taco Bell or McDonald's. He mentioned 2 important issues that need to fix that: reducing launch costs and using resources already in the atmosphere. The goal is to land Blue Moon on the moon's south pole, where ice could be exploited to produce hydrogen, which is used to power Blue Moon and could be used to fuel further exploration. Hey, if you got the money, why not do it? Klamath County, Oregon. A Chiloquin man is now in jail after allegedly telling police that Sasquatch was threatening him with an axe. Timothy Drennan was accused of yelling, swearing, and making threats to a 911 operator. Dispatchers say Drennan claimed an unnamed man was trying to kill him with an axe. When deputies arrived, Drennan said it was Sasquatch that was the one attacking him. Now, Klamath Falls, Klamath County, Oregon, very well known as Sasquatch hotspots. There were no footprints, no other evidence of the big hairy beast. So old Drennan, well, he's being held on charges of misuse of a 911 call and making a false report. How do you know this was a false report? I mean, the guy, well, he's got a good beard. That's about it. Looks a little drunk, maybe high, in his photograph from the big line. Where would Sasquatch get an axe? I guess they could have found one in the forest, lying around from a camper who forgot it, carrying it around, using his Sasquatch gang symbols, playing Sasquatch rap music. Old Drennan, he's still sitting by his story, though. And with the amount of Sasquatch sightings that are in Oregon every year, how can police really confirm that it was a false report? This is what I want to know. This is what I'm curious of. We'll see where this one goes. A fisherman's body that was reported missing after 2 boats collided on Lake Lanier in Georgia has been found. Divers recovered the body of 59-year-old Branislav Prozic in about 33 feet of water near the crash site today. Sad news. Very sad news. This search for the second missing fisherman was suspended after storms rolled in. Recovery efforts are set to resume Friday. The wreck occurred just before 5 p.m. Wednesday, injuring 3 people on one of the boats and launching the 2 men from the second into the lake, said Jason Shivers, Division Chief of the Forsyth County Fire Department. The men went underwater in the southern portion of the lake and apparently drowned. Now, here's the weird part to this story. It's a sad story. Let's be honest. This lake is haunted. It's been known to take a lot of lives. Apparently, this lake is a man-made lake that was built over graveyards as well as an old town. It's kind of eerie. And since then, there has been a lot of death around this lake. A lot of superstition around here. Chances of finding the drowned second man are good. Just sad for their families. Hate to report on this stuff. But it's just kind of weird that it happens in a man-made lake where there's bodies all underneath the water. And underground for that point. Now, you remember back in like 2011. Was it 2011 already? Wow. When Japan faced the horrors of a triple disaster, there was the major earthquake followed by a tsunami, which then caused a nuclear meltdown. Well, Sasaki, his coastal hometown of Otsuchi, Itaru Sasaki, opened up his wind phone to the now huge number of people in the community mourning the loss of loved ones. Eventually, word spread about this phone booth that he created that has a notepad and an old rotary dial phone. So the theory behind this is that the phone, of course, is a one-way communication. Visitors dial their relative's number and catch them up on their current lives or express the feelings necessary to move on. Some find comfort in the hope that their relative might hear them. As the residents of Otsuchi face the slow progress of rebuilding their city, this little phone booth, which has grown very popular, a very, very cool memorial, helps to slowly rebuild the people's lives who survived. Very cool. Great idea. No word, though, if any spirits have picked up on the other side. Let's get to the thought of the Dave. Thought of the Dave happens every night at this time, where we ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air because we love the audience participation around here. Today's Thought of the Dave is as follows. What would you do if you came face to face with a cryptid you believed in? Let's start off with Andrew. Says, I would be shocked and surprised and very stunned. Can't show fear, never run away, walk away slowly, don't look into their eyes. I would be changing my underwear as soon as I could. William. Although not specifically a cryptid, if I was lucky enough to encounter a thylacine, I would try to gather physical evidence of the encounter, scat hair videos or photos without taking my eyes off the creature. Then, I would like to think about not telling anyone. Humans hunt animals, and I would not want a hunter to find and shoot the previous living specimen. Thylacine, of course, known as the Tasmanian tiger, been extinct since 1932. Joshua, to be honest, I'd get him drunk. Who's him? Sasquatch, that's probably a lot of beers. Maybe some tequila thrown in. Paul, if I finally came face to face with the Sasquatch, I would not make eye contact and lower my head and back away slowly and move out of the area. Might need a U-Haul for that, Paul. Kevin and Kevin's beard, two separate entities. You never really know until that moment occurs. Fight or flight. Though the time I came face to face with a shadow figure, I said hello and continued walking. 10 minutes later, though, can tell you, I had a bit of anxiety. Robin, I would turn into the Mortal Kombat character Reptile just in case I needed to defend myself. Yeah, we cool having an ice cap at Tim Hortons. Is that a shot at me, Robin? Is that a shot of the last time Carl appeared? And before I went to find the aliens at the lake, I decided to go to Tim Hortons and get an ice cap and a donut? Is that what that's about? That hurts. That hurts. Sylvia, I would give thanks to God that he showed me it so I wouldn't believe I was crazy. Yesterday, while working in customer service, I spoke to a guy who lived near Kentucky's border. Asked him if he'd ever seen Bigfoot. He started laughing and said no, and then he got serious and said, well, I've heard one. I said, yeah, once you hear, you never forget. He said, yeah, it was quite eerie. My friend has recorded a few of them late at night. I said, well, there are some that are known to roam around Kentucky, and now especially because they love corn and it's corn growing time. He agreed. Tim, enjoy the moment. No quick moves if close. Why worry about a pick? You'll be called a hoaxer or a fraud anyways. Marty, depends on the type of cryptid. Don't you have enough there in Vegas? Lee, probably many things, none of which would be heroic. Susan, I would be in shock, but I can't run, so I guess I would just stand there, crap myself, or try to hobble away quickly. I really hope they are nice. Thank you, Susan. Appreciate that. And everybody who got their comments in on the thought of the Dave. We do it again tomorrow as well. Big thank you to Varla Ventura for coming on the show, talking about all things weird, strange in the cryptid world. She'll be back on July 11th. That's when we'll hear from her again. That'll be a Thursday night. Tomorrow night on the show, one of our Twitter fans listens to us every night, Goddess Michelle, that's what she goes by, is going to join us. We're in for a lifetime of stories and experiences with her. Now, I've heard a few of them, and I can tell you, it's going to be an awesome show tomorrow night with Goddess Michelle. SpacedOutRadio.com, 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern. You know where to find us. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking them in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Big thank you to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Everyone in our chat rooms, including Spreaker tonight, and on Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thanks for telling your friends, doing your part to make us bigger and better every single night. We do it all for you because together, my friends, we own the night. I will talk to you at 21 hours from now. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Have a good night, everybody. See you tomorrow as we prep for the weekend. Good night.